I said I would take it into.
Don't know that that's how that works, but okay.
Oh, it's gonna work in my book,
Okay.
as long as I'm got my mental capacity to be able to be like, whatever, I'll do it later.
Okay. So we're going to get started. And then maybe we can get done a little early. We'll see how things go tonight.
Are you feeling in a tangerine mood?
I don't know. We'll see.
Feeling in
So,
a tangerine mood?
Okay.
I am.
So chapter 20 begins, and the people of Israel, the whole congregation, came into the wilderness of Zin in the first month. And the people stayed in Kadesh, and Miriam died there and was buried there. Now remember,
Who was me?
okay, Miriam is Moses' sister,
Okay.
the oldest child.
Okay.
So remember, she's the one
Oh,
who
yes,
had leprosy for 7 days.
Yes.
That was such a long section. Oh my word.
Yeah, she's the one that turned bright like light.
Okay,
That's the way.
now, the trick here is that, remember, this is fairly soon after they have begun their wanderings. Okay.
Oh yeah, because God had said you guys were
Right.
after your wanderers.
Okay. What?
They're wanderings in the forest?
In the wilderness.
Wilderness.
They're going to be wandering for 40 years, and they've had a rebellion. There's been a few things, so it's a little bit of time. But Miriam has died. So the first of Moses's brothers and sisters has died. Now, as we get into this story, it says, now there was no water for the congregation. Okay. So they are camped in a place that is dry.
Gotcha.
And so, as is typical, they assembled themselves together against Moses and against Aaron. So they began to grumble. Okay.
San Jon?
So,
San Jon?
oh,
San Jon.
hello. Come on in.
Got you a chair right here.
I don't blame you. I wouldn't want to sit next to me either. Okay. So we're in Numbers chapter 20.
Chapter verse 3, right?
Verse 3.
Say verse.
So there I say.
No, it's the rest.
Going home.
Don't sit down. Don't.
I sang in Spanish the other day. Thank you very
I
much.
know that feeling.
I sang in Spanish.
All right. So the situation here is that, remember, they have camped and there's not water. There's not a spring there. Okay. So the people are quarreling with Moses, and they have two kind of complaints, and it's kind of funny how this works. Would that we had perished when our brothers perished before the Lord. Why didn't God just kill us with the rest?
Oh my word.
With all the ones he just killed over where.
No, you don't want to
Uh-huh.
say.
How have you still not learned your lesson?
Yeah. So why have you brought the assembly of the Lord into this wilderness that we should die here, both we and our cattle? We're all gonna die.
Oh,
We're thirsty.
oh my God, I told my kid that. Don't worry, you'll live.
You're gonna die.
So, and then verse 5, here we go again, same thing. And why have you made us come? Why have you made us come out of Egypt to bring us to this evil place? It is no place for grain or figs or vines or pomegranates, and there is no water to drink.
Congratulations.
Okay.
You have now put yourself
They
in
need
jeopardy.
some. They need some.
Then Moses and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly to the entrance of the tent of meeting and fell on their faces. The glory of the Lord appeared to them, and the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, so they go out to where the people are complaining. So they leave the people and they come to bring their complaint to the Lord, is really what happened. They fall on their face before the Lord. Okay, God, what do you want us to do?
This is what these
So
crazy people are
the
doing.
Lord appears in his glory, and he says, take the staff, assemble the congregation, you and Aaron, your brother, Okay. And tell the rock before their eyes to yield its water. So you shall bring water out of the rock for them and give drink to the congregation and their cattle. And Moses took the staff from before the Lord as he commanded. This is the staff that has budded.
I see.
Isn't that the same staff that did all the
Yes.
signs and
And now it has the leaves on it and the almonds. And, okay.
Stuff, yeah,
Like it is
Like-
a small tree,
basically.
a small tree,
Okay.
handheld.
Gotcha.
So it does not tell us all of this, but there is certainly the inference that as Moses and Aaron walk out from the presence of the Lord to the place where God is telling them to bring water, the people are continuing to gripe and complain.
Yeah,
Okay. Now, if you will recall, Moses can be a little hot-headed
yes. This is
When
where he
he's
loses
not-
his salvation. or-
when he is not listening to the Lord. Okay. And he tends to take things into his own hands, as he did killing the Egyptian way back when.
Way back when, yeah.
Okay. So they've made Moses mad. It
Yeah.
is almost certainly how this is working.
I
Okay.
guess is how he sins. He
So-
goes on the cross.
And then Moses and Aaron gathered the assembly together before the rock, and he said to them, now, I want to be completely clear. What he says is almost worse than what he does. Okay, here now, you rebels, we will bring you water out of the rock.
That's where he messed up right there. The we.
Uh-huh. And Moses lifted up his hand and struck the rock with his staff twice.
And it did not.
No, and water came out
My gosh.
abundantly, and the congregation drank and their livestock. And the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, because you did not believe in me. Okay,
Yeah.
so what was the instruction?
You're supposed to speak to the rock. Speak to the rock, not to strike the rock.
Right. So it should have gone something like this. The Lord is going to bring you water. Water come out. And the rock would have split and water would have poured out. And
Yeah.
instead,
Moses
he
hit
struck the rock
'cause he was
twice
pissed.
because he's angry.
You're all rebels. Then why are you even doing this stuff, basically?
Wonder the water came.
Yeah. Lots of water came.
In the water can, but
But it says something about this. Was this a test for the people or a test for Moses?
Moses, because
And Aaron.
yeah,
Because
because
Aaron's going along with it. I mean.
Right.
You know,
There's a fiction book that jokes around about the fact that the Levites always had a temper. And that is certainly true. Remember, it was Levi and one of his brothers who killed the entire encampment that raped
yeah.
their sister. You know, he became infatuated with their sister, the guy did, and he forced himself on her. And then he comes to them and says, I want to marry her. I'm in love with her. I want to marry her. And he goes, well, we can't let her marry anybody who's uncircumcised. So you guys all have to be circumcised. Well, he loved her so much that he and everybody, all of his people became circumcised. And while they were still sore, that's how it's phrased.
Yeah.
While they were still sore from the circumcision, Levi and his brother went out and murdered them all.
well,
that would definitely weaken them.
Uh-huh.
Like,
yeah, like
So
very much.
understand that it is a major element here that what has gone on, okay,
yeah,
because you did not believe in me, because you didn't trust me enough to do it my way, to uphold me as holy, to set me apart in the eyes of the people of Israel. Therefore, you also shall not bring this assembly into the land which I've given them. So Moses has now lost
Milk and honey land.
his spot in the promised land. Okay. These are the waters of Meribah, where the people of Israel quarreled with the Lord, and through them he showed himself holy. Okay. So now Moses sent, this is verse 14. Moses sent messengers to Kadesh, to the king of Edom. Okay. Thus says your brother Israel. Now let's make sure we understand the trick here. Edom are the children of Esau. Okay. Because Edom is the word of the day for red. Okay. Remember that it tells us in Genesis that Esau had very red skin. He was hairy like a goat. Okay. I mean, he was furry, but his skin was very dark red.
Like you when you were born.
Okay.
Why did it call me out?
But almost the discussion of, and we don't know exactly how it means, but to use modern discussion, almost like you think of Native Americans.
Yeah.
Okay. And remember that some of that discussion comes into this, that whenever we talk about Hispanics, particularly, they are a mix of very, very dark-skinned Native Americans and light-skinned Europeans.
Yes.
And so, but in this case, Esau, that he was called Edom because he was red.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now we don't know if that means he always had a sunburn, or I mean, that could be part of it because he was always outside.
Yeah. So he could have just had really fair skin and
Yeah, but if he
furry.
was that way when he was born, and then
Right.
had they named him, I'd say he just had a very ruddy complexion.
Yeah.
Okay. Now remember, David had said it the same thing. He's very ruddy and handsome. Okay, so dark. But the Edomites are the children of Esau. Okay. So thus says your brother Israel. So we are your brothers. You know all the hardships that we have met. Okay. How our fathers went down to Egypt, and we lived in Egypt a long time. And the Egyptians dealt harshly with us and our fathers. Okay, so you've heard the stories of what's happened to us over the last 400 years. We cried to the Lord, and he heard our voice and sent an angel and brought us out of Egypt. So we are in Kadesh, a city on the edge of your territory. Okay, so we're at the edge of the territory, and we would ask your permission to let us pass through your territory. Okay, now we will not pass through a field or vineyard or drink water from any well. Okay, we will not take anything from your land. We will go straight down the road. Okay,
Yeah.
the King's Highway. We will go straight down the road. We will not turn aside to the right hand or to the left until we pass through your territory. So what is Moses saying? He's saying we would like a shortcut to get to where we're going. And so the best way to do that is to take the main highway, but that passes through your land. And we know we've got a lot of people, so we don't want you to confuse our intentions.
With an invasion.
So
Because God is no longer on our side, and you would smatter us.
well, it's not that, it's just common courtesy. And also the other thing is when we get to Exodus, God tells Moses, do not make any attempt to take any land from the Edomites, because they're your brothers and I gave them their land.
Gotcha.
So he's following God's instruction. He's saying, look, just let us pass through. But the nation of Edom makes a decision and says, no, you're not going to pass through, lest I come out with a sword against you. So if you come into our land, we'll attack.
No shortcuts for you.
Okay. So the people of Israel then say to him, look, we'll just use the highway. And if we drink any of your water, then I'll pay for it. Just let me pass through on foot, nothing more. But he said, you shall not pass through. Okay. No. So Edom comes out against them with a large army and with a strong force. Thus, Edom refused to give Israel passage through his territory. So Israel turned away from him. By the way, much later in scripture, when we get into the prophets, we find this discussion that their refusal, it's not what I wanted, that their refusal actually is part of the reason why God judges them later.
Oh,
Because they refused to help their brother.
by letting them pass through.
Okay. So then we go in and we find, and they journeyed from Kadesh, the people of Israel, the whole congregation, and they came to Mount Hor. Okay. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron on Mount Hor on the border of the land of Edom. So now they're on the other side of the land of Edom. Let Aaron be gathered to his people, for he shall not enter the land which I have given to the people of Israel, because you rebelled against my command at the waters of Meribah.
Yeah.
Okay. So they come to this mountain, and God says, okay, it's time. Aaron's going to die now. Okay. Because you guys rebelled.
You see this guy who's been approved.
And he can't enter the land. Okay. Now, let me say, we're probably sitting at a situation, and it doesn't give us time frame, but we're probably sitting now at 30-something years into their wandering.
That's a long time.
Okay. And the reason I say that is because what we're about to see happen is, after Aaron dies, almost immediately after Aaron dies, the children of Israel begin to take land on the east side of the Jordan.
Okay.
Okay. So
But it's not the original people that came. It's not the original adults.
for most of them, no.
It's just like the descendants.
Right.
Like the
We
kids.
don't know at what level all the older people have died out, but
They
yes,
said they would never.
they're right.
Yeah, that's.
But we
fine.
don't know at this point how many of them have died.
How many are still?
But more than likely, we are now talking about most of the people or the next generation. Okay,
Gotcha.
so take Aaron and Eleazar his son and bring them up to Mount Hor. Okay, so bring them up on the mountain. Strip Aaron of his garments and put them on Eleazar his son. So before Aaron's death, God dictates the transfer. Says, you come up. Moses does all the
Transferring.
okay,
And probably the reblessing and all that.
right. And then Aaron shall be gathered to his people and shall die there. Moses did as the Lord commanded. They went up on Mount Hor in sight of all the congregation. Okay, and Moses stripped Aaron of his garments and put them on Eleazar his son. And Aaron died there on top of the mountain. Then Moses and Eleazar came down from the mountain. And then when all the congregation saw that Aaron had perished, all the house of Israel wept for Aaron for 30 days. So for an entire month, they mourned.
With the whole torn clothes and ash and all that.
Now remember, Eleazar's not allowed to mourn.
No, he's not. But
Okay.
everybody's mourning for him. He can
That-
mourn, he just can't show out.
That's exactly the discussion, is that we see. And remember all the times that they threw a fit about Aaron, and they threw a fit about his authority, and they threw a fit about the way things were going. When it all comes down, Aaron was a good priest.
He was. He was a good person.
Okay, so then
those-
we come to chapter 21. Okay. When the Canaanite, the king of Arad, who lived in the Negev. Now the Negev is south. Okay. So if you were to look at a map, if you look at Egypt, and just east of Egypt, kind of in that area is the Negev.
Okay.
Okay. And it's right around the borders of Edom. Okay. Well, one of the Canaanites who lived in the Negev, so he didn't live in Israel proper, heard that Israel was coming by way of Atharim, and he fought against Israel, and he took some of them captive. And Israel vowed a vow to the Lord and said, if you will indeed give this people into my hand, I will devote their cities to destruction. Okay. And the Lord heeded the voice of Israel and gave over the Canaanites. We'll get to that in just a second. And they devoted them and their cities to destruction. So the name of the place was called Hormah. Okay. You were about to ask why that said that they would devote the cities to
I
destruction.
was wondering what that means. Does
Okay.
that mean they're gonna tear down the whole city?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so they're
Okay.
gonna just level.
So the best example of that actually comes a little later in the beginning of Joshua's leadership.
Okay.
Okay. The term is we will put the cities under the ban, is kind of how we phrase it.
Under
Okay.
the ban.
Under the ban. And it's a ban from the Lord.
Oh.
Okay. This city is mine. And everything in it is mine. You go in, you destroy it all. You don't take anything.
That's
You
like
don't
what
take
they
any
took-
treasure.
Yeah,
You don't take
okay.
any livestock. You don't take
You
any
kill it all, leave it
prisoners.
all there,
You level the city completely.
and leave it all there.
And so what they are saying is the children of Israel vowed a vow to the Lord and said, if you will give this people into our hands, then we will destroy the cities utterly.
Completely.
Right. We won't take any spoil. We won't take any treasure. We won't take any.
They do that too in another city where one
Mhm.
guy like pillages a bunch of stuff and the ground swallows them all up.
Yep.
Wasn't that
That's Achan. That's after Jericho.
Jericho? That's what I was thinking it was.
I guess you could say that his foot wasn't feeling too great.
Okay. So the place is called Hormah. Now, from Mount Hor, so understand that while this occurs while they're still camped at Mount Hor after the death of Aaron. So the Canaanite king of Arad comes in and sneaks in and steals people away in the night, apparently, while they're camped at Mount Hor. And so they go out, destroy his cities, and come back. So then from Mount Hor, they set out by the way to the Red Sea. So now they're actually backtracking.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Now they are not going all the way to Egypt.
But they're head back the way they came.
So they've come up, and understand they've come up and they've parked on the eastern side of Israel. They did the spying, they found out, so they leave, and they apparently at some point head back south. And now they are back on the eastern side of the Red Sea, where they would have come out right after they crossed. And the land of Edom is kind of east of there just a little bit. So they're going around Edom. Right. Okay. So here we go. And the people became impatient on the way. Big surprise there.
Yeah.
Okay. People spoke against God and against Moses. Why have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there's no food and no water. And we loathe this worthless food. Now, what was the worthless food?
The manna.
Manna in the morning and quail at night.
But wait, they were complaining about not having meat, so that's why they got quail.
Right. By the way, quail is wonderful.
Oh yeah, quail's good eats right there.
Okay. We loathe this
That's good.
worthless food. So once again, so the phrasing in the Hebrew is this: then the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people. Okay. Really venomous snakes or venomous lizards, probably venomous snakes.
Poisonous snakes.
Okay. And they bit the people so that many people of Israel died. So rattlesnakes, I mean, in this area it'd be
Vipers.
rattlesnakes, but vipers. Okay.
Cobras, vipers.
And the people came to Moses and said, we have sinned, for we have spoken against the Lord and against you. Pray to the Lord that he takes away the serpents from us. Okay. So Moses prays for the people. So once again, what is Moses doing for the people? He's
God,
interceding on their behalf.
idiots.
God, you know how stupid these people are. So will you forgive them again? So the Lord said to Moses, make, and By the way, very interesting discussion. Make an image of one of the fiery serpents and set it up on a pole. And everyone who is bitten, when he sees it, shall live. Okay.
That's pretty
Now,
cool.
couple of interesting denotions here.
What's a denotion?
Or, sorry, a couple of interesting points to bring.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I don't got my translator.
Now, what is the cause of their problem?
They're impatient.
Right.
Right.
But
Yeah.
what is causing them to die?
The snakes.
The snakes. Okay. So make out of bronze. Okay, which remember, bronze is the metal that is used in
For sin.
atonement. Okay. Make an image of the thing that is your problem and put it on a pole.
That sounds like really like not so solid ground there. That's got a lot of potential problems because they're putting an image on the pole.
There is problems that come from it,
It could
but
be very problematic.
we're going to park here for a minute because I want to make sure we see this. In John chapter 3, okay, in John chapter 3, Jesus is speaking to Nicodemus. And he uses this exact phrasing. He says, just as the serpent was lifted up in the wilderness, so shall the Son of Man be lifted up.
Oh.
Now,
Well,
here's
that makes
the
sense.
point of it. The thing that is causing their death, okay, in this case, it's the serpents,
Yeah,
is put on a pole, raised up from the earth,
yeah.
and everyone who looks at it in faith that God will heal them
Yes.
will not die. That's kind of, some of that is inferred, but that's definitely part of this. In the same way as Jesus is hanging on the cross, okay, and this is a very important analogy to get into. Jesus is not the thing that was killing them. He's the perfect sacrifice.
Yeah.
But when he gets on the cross, what do they put on his head?
A crown.
Made of what?
No,
Where do thorns come from? What?
Sin.
cactus.
So that's true.
Different.
In this case, we're talking about something fairly similar to,
Mesquite.
they had taken a wreath made out of, actually, they're much bigger than mesquite thorns.
But it's
They're like 3 inches long. It's a palm. It's a type of palm, and it has really long thorns. But remember that in Genesis chapter 3, okay, so we're moving all over the Bible.
Sorry.
In Genesis chapter 3, God begins by cursing the woman. And what is the curse that he gives to the woman?
So,
Pain during childbirth.
And bleeding wasn't much.
Right. Now, what is the curse that he gives to the man?
And the land will produce thistles and
Thorns.
thistles and thorns.
So up until sin,
12.
there were no thorns or thistles.
Nothing pokier.
So
Mosquitoes.
a crown made of thorns, in a way, symbolizes that as Jesus hangs on the cross, he has become the king of sin. And remember, the Bible indicates that later in the New Testament, he became sin on the cross. And then he nailed that sin to the cross. And then whenever he came down from the cross, that sin stayed there.
Like
So
a snake.
watch. The sin was what was killing us. And if we will turn and look in faith to the cross where sin is hanging,
Well, I mean,
then we won't die.
okay, this starts to make a lot of sense whenever you look at the first sin of the in which it was like the devil form of a serpent
Uh-huh.
came up.
The analogy is real.
And that's why the snakes
Uh-huh.
killing everybody.
Okay.
That's why the snakes crawl around it. Or-
However, let's also make note of this for this discussion, because it goes both directions too. What is killing them?
Sin, their grumpiness,
Their
their
rebellion
disobedience.
against God. It is being symbolized in what?
A snake.
Which is, according to their own history, the thing that led to the problem in the first place. Okay. Now,
It's not God's sense of humor.
just to get into the discussion of the history of this bronze serpent, they eventually have to destroy it because the people, like a couple hundred years later, the people start worshiping. By the way, just so that you understand, a snake on a pole here. Several hundred years later, you see in Greek mythology a snake on a pole, which then leads to the symbol that every doctor has in their office
For
Totally
healing,
does.
for healing.
for healing,
Wait, what is it called again?
a caduceus. But it's a
That's
serpent
the
on a
two
pole.
Snakes going like this.
On a
around
pole.
the pole. Yeah, I like that symbol.
Okay, but here's part of the background of that. Okay, so God is giving them an object lesson here. Okay, now, verse 10. The people of Israel set out and camped in Oboth. They camped and they set out from Oboth and they camped at Ir Abarim in the wilderness opposite of Moab. So now we're at Moab. Okay. From there, they set out and camped in the valley of Zered. From there, they set out and camped on the other side of the Arnon, which is in the wilderness that extends from the borders of the Amorites. From the Arnon is the border of Moab, between Moab and the Amorites. Therefore, it is said in the book of the wars of the Lord. Okay, and then it gives a little Wahib and Sufa and the valleys of Arnon and the slopes of the valleys that extend to the seat of Ar and leans to the border of Moab. So from there, they continued to Beer, that is the well of which the Lord said to Moses, gather the people together so that I may give them water. So now we're kind of going through and just we're fast forwarding a little. Okay.
Gotcha.
Then Israel sang this song, spring up, O well, sing to it. The well that that the princes made, that the nobles of the people dug with the scepter and with their staff. Okay, and from the wilderness, they went on to Mattanah, and from Mattanah to Nahaliel, and from Nahaliel to Bamoth, and from Bamoth to the valley lying in the region of Moab by the top of the Pisgah that looks down on the desert. Okay. Now, so basically what we've done is we've done 10 verses to get us to the next section. Okay, it's a 10 verse. If this was a movie, this would be the travel montage. Okay.
That makes me think of Monty Python.
This is the travel montage. So then Israel sent messengers to Sihon, the king of the Amorites, saying, let me pass through your land. We will not turn aside into field or vineyard. We will not drink the water of a well. We will go by the king's highway until we pass through the territory. Now, there is an important difference here. The Edomites are related to Israel. The Amorites are part of the Canaanite group.
That's where they're at right now.
They are not in Canaan,
No,
but they have now traveled and they are kind of in the northern. Okay, so if you think of where Israel is in the map, they are east of the Jordan, kind of on the north. Okay, but they're east of the Jordan. And this is a group of foreigners. Okay, but Sihon would not allow Israel to pass through his territory. He gathered all his people together and went out against Israel to the wilderness and came to Jahaz and fought against Israel. Now, so here's the thing. He does the exact same thing that the Edomites do. He says no and then sends his army. But instead of Israel just backing off because God had told them not to
Fight the Edomites.
now a war breaks out. Now, this is an important part of this, and it is very clear that this is, and I'll have to find exactly where it says it, but it does bring this up. God is now teaching them how to wage war. Because what's going to happen here in a few years? They're going to enter into the land and have to take it, so they got to know how to fight.
Yeah, and we're all on the new generation of people that have never fought.
Right. So Israel defeated him with the edge of the sword and took possession of his land from the Arnon to the Jabbok as far as the Ammonites, for the border of the Ammonites was strong. And Israel took all these cities, and Israel settled in all the cities of the Amorites, in Heshbon and all its villages. For Heshbon was the city of Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who had fought against the former king of Moab, and had taken all his land out of his hand as far as the Arnon. Therefore the ballad singers say, "Come to Heshbon, let it be built. Come to let the city of Sihon be established. For a fire came out of Heshbon, flame from the city of Sihon. It devoured Ar of Moab and swallowed the heights of Arnon. Woe to you, O Moab, you're undone." Okay. Now, Moab is related to Israel. Okay.
Yeah, didn't Moses marry a Moabite woman?
Yes.
Is that how
Or-
they're related?
No, but there's a connection there back to Abraham.
Okay.
Okay. So we have this song just saying about how Sihon defeated the Moabites. That's why it's there. Okay. So we have King Sihon defeated. And now we're about to have another one. Thus Israel lived in the land of the Amorites. And Moses sent out to spy out Jazer, and they captured its villages and dispossessed the Amorites who were there. Then they turned and went up by way of Bashan. And Og, the king of Bashan, came out against them, he and all his people, to battle at Edrei. But the Lord said to Moses, "Do not fear him, for I've given him into your hand, and all his people and his land. And you shall do to him as you did to Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who lived at Heshbon." So they defeated him and his sons and all his people until he had no survivors left, and they possessed his land. Now, the important element here is now Moses has taken over 2 foreign kings, and they now have land on the eastern side of the
But
Jordan.
not the land that God was promising.
Right.
Because Moses doesn't get to go there.
Hold on. I want to make sure that I'm right on this. Okay. Okay. So the thing that is about to happen, though, and this is very important. Okay. Moses has gained a huge victory over these 2 Amorite kings.
Yes.
Okay. And have gotten land on the border of Moab. Now, Deuteronomy 2, which comes a little later here, but it's Moses talking about what God had told him. In Deuteronomy 2, he tells the people of Israel that God had told him, "Do not take any land from the Moabites, because they're your brothers, and I gave them their land." Okay.
So don't touch their land. Same with the Ammonites.
Same with, the Ammonites and the Edomites.
Edomites. That's what I
Okay.
was thinking of.
Now, the issue that comes up is Moab is not so certain about that. So in chapter 22, it says, "Then the people of Israel set out and camped in the plains of Moab beyond the Jordan at Jericho." Okay, so they are now on the border of Moab. They are up against the Jordan. Okay, they have taken 2 major people groups and destroyed them and taken their land on the east side of the Jordan. And what seems to be clear is Moab, the king of Moab, whose name is Balak, is freaking out.
With good reason. I got a little freaked out too.
Yep.
It's like cities all around me starting to fall.
Okay.
Because
So it says, then the people of Israel set out, they camped, and Balak, the son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites. And Moab was in great dread of the people because they were many. Moab was overcome with fear of the people of Israel. And Moab said to the elders of Midian, okay, so Midia is, and that is the one that, that is the one that Moses is related to, the Midianites.
oh, the Midianites.
Okay.
Okay.
This horde will now lick up all that is around us as the ox licks up the grass of the field. So Balak, the son of Zippor, who was the king of Moab at the time, sent messengers to Balaam, the son of Beor, at Pethor, which is near the river in the land of the people of Ammon, to call him, saying, now, Balaam appears, I don't think it ever says for sure. Balaam is probably a Midianite.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Balaam, is that the guy that everybody was feeding their babies to?
No, that's a god. Balaam is a catchphrase for a major sin in Israel. Okay. Balaam is a man.
Okay.
Okay. But you will find throughout the Old Testament, it will say, don't fall into the sin of Balaam. Don't fall into the sin of Balaam.
What?
Which is covered in the next chapter.
Okay.
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 So we are introduced to Balaam. By the way, this is
Okay.
one of my favorite stories in the entire Bible.
Okay.
Okay. I will kind of explain what happens here briefly so that you know what's coming. Balaam is offered money to curse the children of Israel in the name of God. Okay.
I would think that would backfire.
It did royally,
I would
Okay.
think it would.
as we will see. Later, we see the children of Israel fall into a huge sin and really get themselves in trouble. And then later we have this discussion of you fell into the sin of Balaam. So after God thwarts this attempt to curse, Balaam apparently tells Balak, hey, I'll tell you what you need to do. You need to make a treaty with Israel and tell them that they can marry your daughters and you can have their daughters marry your sons and
So we could enter.
and
Makes
then here's the thing. And then the daughters of Moab can cause the children of Israel to sin.
Oh, that's why God says don't marry any of these.
They led them into idolatry, which then makes God angry, and a major event takes
And one of
place.
their idols was the guys. Yes, we are. But isn't one of their gods the one they feed their kids to?
Yeah.
And what's his name?
Molech.
Molech.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know
So-
why I was thinking it started with a B.
So sent messengers to Balaam. Okay.
Okay.
Behold, the people has come out of Egypt. They cover the face of the earth. They are dwelling opposite me. Come now and curse this people for me, since they are too mighty for me. Perhaps I shall be able to defeat them and drive them from the land. For I know that he whom you bless is blessed, and he whom you curse is cursed. Okay. So elders of Moab and the elders of Midian departed with the fees for divination in their hands. So the money.
Okay.
And they came to Balaam and gave him Balak's message. And he said to them, lodge here tonight, and I will bring back word to you as the Lord, uses the covenant name of God, speaks to me. So the princes of Moab stayed with Balaam. And God came to Balaam and said, who are these men with you? And Balaam said to God, Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab, has sent me, saying, behold, a people has come out of Egypt, and it covers the face of the earth. Now come and curse them for me. Perhaps I shall be able to fight against them and drive them out. So God said to Balaam, You shall not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed. Okay. So God says, don't do it.
Gotcha.
So if you curse a blessed person, does that not mean
No.
Well, but understand the idea was blessings and curses belong to God.
Oh, curses
Yeah,
belong to
no.
God too.
Well,
I get
so really the point of this is that Balaam is that they are asking Balaam to go against God.
Basically,
Okay.
and God's like,
Oh.
don't do this because these are
Right.
blessed people.
So Balaam rose in the morning and said to the princes of Balak, go to your own land, for the Lord has refused to let me go with you. So the princes of Moab rose and went to Balak and said, Balaam refuses to come. So Balak sends princes more in number and higher ranked than the ones before. And they came to Balaam and said, thus says Balak, the son of Zippor, let nothing hinder you from coming to me. For I will surely do you great honor, and for whatever you say to me, I will do. Come curse this people for me. But Balaam answered and said to the servants of Balak, though Balak were to give me his house full of gold and silver, I could not go beyond the command of the Lord my God to do less or more. So you two, please stay here tonight that I may know what more the Lord will say to me. Now, here's where we come into a small problem. God has already given him the instruction. Don't go. The second group of guys says, well, I don't, God has already told me I can't do against him. But go ahead and stay another night and I'll ask to see if the plan has changed.
Which it doesn't sound smart either.
Okay.
I don't think God changes his mind. It just doesn't seem that way.
Okay. So then God came to Balaam at night and said to him, if the men have come to call you, go with them, rise and go with them, but only do what I tell you.
Ew.
So Balaam rose in the morning and saddled his donkey and went with the princes of Moab. Okay. Now, it is a little unclear as to exactly how this is working, but at this point, Balaam is clearly planning on cursing the people and getting him a fat little reward for it. Because in verse 22, it says that God's anger was kindled because he went. Okay. And the angel of the Lord took his stand in the way as his adversary. So remember, when we talk about the angel of the Lord, we are talking about often about a pre-incarnate appearance of Christ himself. And he's come because he is now Balaam's enemy.
Because he knows that he's not going to do exactly as God says, and he's
Okay.
going to curse him anyway.
Well, because he was presumptuous, I guess is the way to say it, to think that he could. So now he was riding on his donkey, and his two servants were with him. And the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a drawn sword in his hand. And the donkey turned aside out of the road and went into the field. And so Balaam beat the donkey, turned her on into the road. Okay, so here's the idea. Going down the road, it's kind of a wide road. There's a massive guy standing here with a drawn sword. And the donkey sees it. Balaam can't see it. And the donkey goes, no, I don't think I'll go that way.
Let's go.
And the donkey gets beat and then brought back to the road. Well, now the angel has moved. And now the place is narrower, so less chance for him to get away. And the angel's standing there again. Okay. Stood against a narrow place where there was no way to turn to the right or the left. Or no, sorry. Then narrow between vineyards with a wall on either side. Okay. So not quite narrow, not super narrow, but narrower.
Yeah.
And the donkey pushes himself up against the wall of the vineyard to get out of reach of the angel. and pressed his foot up against the wall. So he scuffed up his foot. So Balaam beats the donkey again. So now the angel moves to an even narrower place where there is no escape. Okay. And when when the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she just laid down. I'm not moving. Okay. Laid down under Balaam. So this is the third time this donkey has saved Balaam's life. And what has she gotten for her work? She got beaten. Okay.
A lot.
Now, this is why I say this is my favorite passage in the Bible. Balaam's anger was kindled, and he struck the donkey with his staff. Then the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey. And the donkey said, and she said to Balaam, "What have I done to you that you strike me these 3 times?"
What did I do to you?
I think
Now,
I'd be freaking out if
but
my dog
here's the
started off.
funny part. At least initially, Balaam's not too freaked out because he answers.
Like it's a normal thing.
Because you have made a fool of me. I wish I had a sword in my hand, for then I would kill you. Then the donkey said to Balaam again, "Am I not your donkey on which you have ridden all your life long to this day? Is it my habit to treat you this way?" And he said, "Well, no."
Then maybe something's up.
Okay. Then the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam. And suddenly Balaam sees what the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way with his drawn sword in his hand. He bowed, fell on his face, and the angel of the Lord said to him. Now notice, I want to start with, what did he not say? He did not say, "Don't be afraid."
So
He did not tell him not to be afraid.
so he should probably be
In other words, you better look out.
You better be afraid.
words. The words, you better start right.
Okay. Why have you struck your donkey these 3 times? Behold, I have come out to oppose you because your way is perverse before me. The donkey saw me and turned aside before me these 3 times. If she had not turned aside from me, surely just now I would have killed you and let her live. Now, here is an interesting discussion here that we need to talk about. I think that God is doing a bit of an object lesson for Balaam. Because multiple times they came to Balaam, "Hey, come and curse this people, come and curse this people, come and curse this people." And finally, Balaam relents.
Yeah.
Now, it says that God told him, "Okay, yeah, go if you want to." But
Just know. Just know that.
Say what I say. Don't do anything else.
so 3 times the angel has been prepared to kill him, and the donkey saved his life. Okay. Then Balaam says to the angel, so what's the object lesson? It's 3 times your donkey saved you after you disobeyed multiple times. Okay. You didn't turn back, and you didn't realize you displeased me. The donkey was smarter than you are. Okay. So then Balaam says to the angel of the Lord, "I have sinned, for I did not know that you stood in the road against me. Now, therefore, if it is evil in your sight, I will turn back."
Well, hello. I already told you I didn't want you to do it. They were
Okay.
blessed. Of
And
course it's evil.
And the angel of the Lord says to Balaam, "Go with the men, but speak only what I tell you." Okay. So Balaam went on with the princes of Balak. When Balak heard that Balaam had come, he went out to meet him at the city of Moab on the border formed by the Arnon at the extremity of the border, so right near the Israelite camp. And Balak said to Balaam, "Did I not send to you to call you? Why did you not come to me? Am I not able to honor you?" So what took you so long is kind of the idea.
Basically.
Balaam says to Balak, "Behold, I have come to you. Have I now any power of my own to speak anything? The word that God puts in my mouth, I must speak." Okay. So then Balaam went with Balak, and they came to Kiriath Huzoth. And Balak sacrificed oxen and sheep, and sent Balaam and for the princes, sent for Balaam and for the princes who were with him. And in the morning Balak took Balaam and stood him up at Bamoth Baal, and from there he saw a fraction of the people. Okay, we are going to stop there, and we will pick up on the 3 oracles. I think there's 3. Yeah, the 3 oracles
Sunday.
on Sunday. No, there's actually 4 oracles.
Remind me of Numbers 22. Because
I will forget.
And I'm. The heck?
My America call and schedule you right on.
I'm gonna need some prayers.
Okay, what's going on?